I think we always wait for what's the perfect time to go do something. There is no perfect time. There's no magical amount of money to have saved in the bank and to make sure everything aligns and have this, 200-page business plan. So we just took a chance, and I've been running ever since.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams come to life. Welcome to Innovation City.
Welcome to Innovation City, a podcast featuring the innovators, disruptors, and creators who are making things happen. My name is Michael T. Johnson, and I'm here with my co-host Tyler Kelly. And today we're at Venture Cafe Miami in Miami, Florida. And if you're not familiar, Venture Cafe is the largest gathering of innovators, disruptors, entrepreneurs anywhere in the world. So if you're near a city that's hosting a Venture Cafe, you are going to want to check out a Thursday night gathering. So we're here at a Thursday night gathering with Hajj Flemings. Hajj, thank you for being here. We're very excited to have you.
Well, I'm excited. It's beautiful outside. We got a great view. And I'm excited just to be on this podcast. I can check this off my bucket list now.
So Hajj, in 2011, was one of 8 entrepreneurs selected for CNN's Black in America 4, The New Promised Land, Silicon Valley. That's the name of the documentary, which was with Soledad O'Brien. Mm-hmm. And during the filming of that documentary, he came to understand the real meaning of the term meritocracy. Did I say that right?
It's meritocracy.
Yeah. Meritocracy. See, there you go.
Yeah. Close enough. You got it.
But you recognize that lack of access in the technology space was creating a permanent underclass in communities of color. We could probably call this like a digital divide.
Absolutely.
And that experience changed the course of your life. And so you founded Brand Camp University, an educational platform that prepares people for the future of work. Mm-hmm. And then in 2017, you launched Rebrand Cities along with WordPress, which is a global civic design partnership with the audacious goal of getting 10,000 businesses online to eradicate that digital divide.
Yes. You nailed it. You nailed it.
Welcome to the show.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I know we had a lot of ground to cover in a short period of time, but I'm super excited. I love the work that I do. I'm passionate about it. And that's what wakes me up every day. It's not an alarm clock. It's not caffeine. It's just truly doing what I absolutely love to do. So,
and Brand Camp is by way of Detroit.
Yes. So we launched Brand Camp so our first Brand Camp conference was 2008. We grew it to be the largest personal branding conference in the Midwest. We have evolved the conference. Now it is a conference that centers around entrepreneurship, technology, and branding. And so it's like this collision of doers, thinkers, entrepreneurs, and people who are just doing amazing things. And so we brought in a series of speakers, John Maeda, who's the global head of design for WordPress or Automatic. People like Alexis Ohanian. So I teased Alexis one time. So he's married to Serena Williams. And so I told him, now you know why she married you, right? It's because you spoke at Brand Camp. And so we got a laugh out of that. People like Brad Feld, the co-founder of Techstars. So we've had like some amazing speakers. April Holmes, the world's fastest amputee. We've had some really interesting and cool people come and share their stories. So,
plus it's a partnership with WordPress. So I know we're big fans of WordPress in it's kind of the website world, the digital world. So tell me about that partnership.
Yeah. So things, it was really serendipitous. So at my Brand Camp conference in 2016. I invite John Maeda out. I had been trying to get him there for like a while. I was able to make the connection. He comes out, but 2 weeks before he comes to the conference, because back then he was the design partner for Kleiner Perkins. He leaves Kleiner Perkins. I was like, okay. And then he goes to WordPress, and the light goes off in my head. I was like, this might be kind of cool. So he comes to the conference. We began to talk a little bit. I began to share with him some of the work that we were doing inside of the Grandma Rosedale community in Detroit. We literally started working on 2 websites initially. No one made any money out of it. We're like, we're just going to just get 2 businesses online, and that's really where it started at. And one thing I can say is that like WordPress has been, I couldn't have asked for a better partner. They power 32% of the internet, but like they really have an amazing heart for entrepreneurs. There's things that they could do where they could literally make more money, but they really want to make a difference. But also too, I can see that they're starting to turn the corner and realizing that there's a lot of opportunity out there. And so what we work with them on is getting people on the WordPress.com platform. And so we're excited about it. We have some amazing stories about some of the entrepreneurs, but WordPress is awesome.
Yeah. So, and you're talking about that goal of 10,000 small businesses being online. Mm-hmm. So first of all, why is that the goal? And then like, how does that happen?
So we are pretty data driven. And so there's so much information out there. So as we started to go down this path, so what happened was is that when we started our project in Detroit, we started out and we were in a neighborhood, and we originally started out, we were doing an accelerator, and we started down this path. The Knight Foundation had funded us. And we had a lot of amazing speakers, people who had did social media for Beyonce, like amazing people. And what we realized is that we got this bag of money, we have a year, and what we wanted to do, we really can't accomplish in a year because of the lack of density of businesses, and it was a series of things. And what we began to realize is that, okay, it's great to have this accelerator, but these businesses don't have websites. And so we realized we need to kind of go back to phase 1 and work on some of the basic stuff. And so that's what kind of formed our thought process. So as we started to do the research, we realized there are 28 million small businesses in the United States, of which 46% have no website.
Wow.
So we're like, this is a huge problem. Let's go after 1%. Let's go after a little bit less than 1% of that. That's 10,000 businesses, and that number is pretty consistent in Europe and in other countries. It's even greater in some of the other countries. So that's kind of where we got the number from. And plus we wanted to do something that was bigger than us, right? If you say, hey, I'm gonna go help 100 businesses, like you can do that without even having to figure anything out. So we wanted to have an audacious goal.
Now, is it safe to assume that you're localizing this effort like in communities of color because of that greater disparity of the lack of access to technology?
So what we're doing is that it just gives us an opportunity. We want to make sure that the work that we do, that we are mindful. I want to be mindful of people that look like me. So because what I see cities transforming, and you see it happening all over the United States and all over the world. And what happens is that we get everything gets gentrified. The people who are there, who love the community or who like where they are, but there's a lot of crime. As soon as you clean up the crime and make the schools good, the people who are there can no longer afford to be there, right? And so we don't want to create something where we like left out the people that have been a part of these cities, right? So that's a major part. So for us, 62% of our business owners are women, about 80% are African American, and so those are part of our primary customers. But we have people who fit every single demographic. And it allows us to be able to help people in cities who are probably not early adopters of technology and who have amazing ideas. And they might be in a socioeconomically depressed area, but really they're just good people that work hard on something and their heads are down, focused on that idea.
So the brand camp obviously came out of some other things that you had started earlier, like kind of the CNN documentary and some other things that you discovered early on. So tell me kind of the root of what eventually evolved into that.
So what happened was that, so I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. So I went to school for mechanical engineering. I went and got my MBA, worked in the automotive industry for 10 years, but at the same time, I believe everybody should have a side project. So at the same time, I was trying to get into the marketing space, but I was typecasted. So I couldn't get into marketing at Ford because all my experience was in engineering. So I said, okay, let me try to reposition who I am. So I'm studying, I'm writing blog posts, I'm learning more stuff. And I eventually wrote a book. I wrote a book called The Brand You Life, Rethinking Who You Are Through Personal Brand Management, and started down this path. So on December 23rd, which is my birthday, 2009, my job ended. I just came back from Walt Disney. I just spoke at Disney. And so we had life changes. It was Christmas. My wife was pregnant with our daughter. And so I had to make some decisions. And so I literally walk out of Ford. My phone buzzed was my first opportunity. And when that happens, I end up getting a pay raise. It ended up being my first major client. And everybody wants to be an entrepreneur until they become one. And once they become an entrepreneur, they realize this stuff is really hard, and people don't just pay you because you look good. Like, I'm not an Instagram model, as you can see, right? So I got to do stuff that provides value, because if not, I'm not gonna make any money. And so that's what kind of got me down the path. But I was doing something on the side, and I always tell people this. When you think about the work that you're doing, it's really about being on a journey. So if you think about the person who created the 3M Post-it note, he wasn't trying to create the Post-it note. He was trying to create a bookmark for a hymnal, but he was on the journey of discovery. And so that's what happened to me. I was trying to figure out what I was going to be when I grew up. I knew I didn't want to be that engineer the whole time, and that's what kind of got me down the path of what I'm doing today.
I'm still trying to figure that out too. What I want to be when I grow up.
Absolutely, that's part of the journey. Yep.
So tell me how you get selected for a documentary. Like, how's that? What was that experience like?
So the interesting part is that, like, I think we all would love to be on national, things that are on TV and things like that. And I think it's really hard to try to just do stuff that goes viral, or do stuff to where like to try to position yourself so that the national media outlets want to cover you. But what I tell people is that when you do amazing stuff in the space that you're in, it begins to create opportunities. So if we kind of go back, this goes back to, I think, 2010. I was down at South by Southwest. I had an idea for a startup. There were 3 other guys that I knew. We literally stayed in the Hilton lobby right near the convention center, and we worked on the startup. So we worked on the startup. Back then it was called GoKit. And we said, we're not leaving until we launch this thing this weekend. So we went, worked on it, worked on this idea. It got covered by Black Enterprise magazine. Some other media outlets began to find out like what we were doing. Someone from the Wall Street Journal had found out about our startup. Then one of the guys who I was working with was working on this startup house in Silicon Valley. And so then once the Wall Street Journal article came out, CNN found out about it, and they were like, this would be great. And so that's kind of how, so our startup really launched the whole idea of them looking at this group of entrepreneurs for the actual documentary. So I was very fortunate to be doing what I was doing at the right time, I guess.
Wow. So I just want to make sure I understand the full story with Ford. Mm-hmm. That was by choice or not by choice?
So it was not by choice. I knew that our activity was going away. So in 2008, I'm sure you all know about the bankruptcies and all the things that were happening. So we knew, so people were being cut like the year before. Okay. But I still felt like I probably had another few months, right? I was like, I'm good. It's going to be second quarter. It's going to be Q2 of 2010 or later, and then my number got called, and then you have like this moment where you begin to realize, okay, I'm not going to be working this job anymore, and have to think about something else. And so I had other automotive opportunities, but it ended, and I had a conversation with my wife, and I was like, if I don't do this now, it's going to be another 10 years. And I think we always wait for what's the perfect time to go do something. There is no perfect time. There's no magical amount of money to have saved in the bank and to make sure everything aligns and have this, 200-page business plan. And so, we just took a chance, and I've been running ever since. I have not turned back. I haven't taken a full-time job since then. And my wife is happy. And so, when you're married, I tell people, it's not just you in entrepreneurship, the whole family is in entrepreneurship. My wife is not an entrepreneur at all. She works for FCA, and so she understands pay cycles and things like that. So we've had some ebbs and flows. We've had some come to Jesus meetings, and that's why I always try to be transparent with entrepreneurs, because they just think that everybody is, okay, you're going to go secure like millions of dollars and wear flip-flops and not show a pitch deck, and it's all going to work out. I don't know anybody like that. Right, so there are the ebbs and flows, but everything is good now, and I'm glad about that. So,
yeah, I can relate to the wife. So when I quit my job, I was supposed to get another job, and I just didn't, because I pursued something else. But
And I'm sure that probably caused a little bit of friction at that point.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
And you had a child on the way. Like, were you aware of the child on the way, or did that come shortly?
Yes.
Later? Okay.
So we were aware. So my wife had just gotten pregnant. And that was on purpose, obviously. So we were practicing that. So, but it was, So like we find out that she's pregnant, and then the job ends. So it's like all these things like pile up and all start happening all at the same time. It's interesting how things just kind of just happen all at the same time, and then you have to make some really tough decisions.
I was going to say that's the universe checking to make sure you're serious about that direction, right?
Yeah.
That's how I see that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And even the work that we're doing now, we're now looking at how do we get to scale, right? So in an ideal world, we would love to work with more municipal cities. What we found in our process is identifying the right partnerships in these cities. So economic development corporations, municipal cities, organizations like Venture Cafe have been amazing. Lynn has been awesome. And so this has opened us up to where we don't have to go track down entrepreneur by entrepreneur. We're able to develop those partnerships. It allows us to be able to have a base. And so what we're doing now, we're doing quarterly events in the cities that we're in. And so that's working out pretty well.
So yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So you find your target businesses through people on the ground, organizations on the ground. And you did 300 last year.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, having a pipeline of vetted businesses is critically important. And working with partners who are trusted in those communities, especially if you're going into cities where you're just getting there for the first time. And so that trust factor is critically important. So you need a person that they've worked with, that they've had a positive experience with. And so that's what we focused on.
So tell me, we obviously have all built websites and built websites for other people. So the hardest part, I think, is the content, not necessarily the tech, but the words that go on the website.
It is.
How do you deal with that with 300 businesses?
Trying to get blood out of a turnip, because they all know that they need it. And you ask questions, and there's things that are like they know these things. And so I'll ask, so we might work with a restaurant. So what kind of food do you serve? We serve good food. Glad you serve good food. We need a little more detail than good food, right? So trying to save them from themselves and to be able to give you good information, that is the absolute biggest challenge. And so we look for ways to help them out. So we give them, so before we do our workshop session together, they have documents to be able to populate about statements and things like that, to upload content. We have people who are writers who can come and help them to formulate ideas and to kind of put stuff down. So we've tried a series of things to be able to try to make the process a lot easier. And so, but that's always going to be an ongoing challenge, because then how do you find the time to write it? And then you get into technology challenges. Okay, so do you have a laptop? Things that you would say are innate, or maybe they do a lot of stuff on their phone, which that's great. You do a lot of stuff on your phone. It's probably going to be difficult to think about writing a lot of content from a phone, unless you have a wireless keyboard and it's still not a big screen. So you run into those kind of challenges too. And so trying to work around that. So we're working on ways to be able to help them to be able to scrape information from different places and to be able to pull it in an easy way. And so those are the things that we're working on.
Yeah. Let's get like super practical for a minute. And let's say I'm one of those small businesses, or I'm a brand, or maybe I'm an entrepreneur, and I don't have anything out there yet. Like what do I need to have out there for my personal brand?
Yeah. So when we're working with clients on getting the base website out there, so we start out, we want them to think about their IP. So they need to have a domain name. We want the social network handles, if possible, to match, right? So ideally, you'd want them to all be the same, but figure out exactly like what that's going to be, and if there's only certain platforms that they're on, lock those down. They have to set an account up, and then we started looking at, okay, all right, so having some strong visuals are going to help us, even if you don't have a whole lot of content. So we have a photographer, we do photo shoots, and so at least we have a couple basic shots. So we have a headshot of them. We have photos where they can bring some product or things like that. So we try to do as much stuff as we can all in the same physical space, because when you start getting into, all right, we're going to go shoot your business, then we get into a different price structure. We have to have somebody go to the business, and so that turn, you know what I'm saying? So we try to do as much stuff as we can physically do together. So we get the photos. We have some templates of past websites so they can kind of see what they need to develop or do, and we give them a document that they can easily populate and try to make that as painless as possible. And then we take that, put that in there, and then we can kind of tweak from there. But our goal is that it's almost like doing video content, to where you want to alleviate as much post-production as possible. So the goal is that let's get as much stuff as we can that like we can go knock out when we're together face to face, not just doing remote stuff. And that makes the next step easier. So now so we used to do photos the day before, and then we do the website on the following day. So now what we do is we're doing photos the same day. I got somebody processing, uploading photos at the same time. And so we do that because we need it to be a high energy, concentrated time where you start here and we get you onboarded. And so that's the goal. So we typically get about 70 to 80% done before we leave that day. But our goal is we want to get to 100%.
And that's at the quarterly, the quarterly event is a one-day event?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so then we have other touch points after. We have webinars, we have calls or things like that. But there's something about the energy when you're all together. And once people leave, the energy dissipates. And in trying to get people to give you stuff is very difficult. I'm sure, as you all know, trying to track people down, and like, this is to help them. The same with this podcast helps the people who are on the podcast. I'm sure getting the information is a challenge. And it's like that as soon as you're not in the same room with somebody.
I heard a stat today that people forget 75% of everything they hear within a few hours. That's just people. That's all people.
Yes. And it doesn't mean that you're not great at delivery. It doesn't mean that you didn't provide quality, relevant information, because people are inundated with so much stuff. So we get 5,000 to 10,000 brand messages a day. We are overwhelmed. I mean, there was one stat that showed that I think in a week, the information that we get in a week is what people would be what people would get in a lifetime. Like, it's just, it's crazy the amount of information that we're inundated with, from email and TVs and, and all kind of other stuff, the internet. And so now the signal and noise kind of stuff so it's like, so you're gonna forget more stuff than it's like, it's just so much stuff that's happening, trying to process it and then trying to rise to the top to make sure that your stuff is important enough for them to say, okay, I'm gonna prioritize this versus other stuff.
So Rebrand Cities, you're located in Detroit. You opened an office here.
Yes.
At Tribe in Miami. Any other cities at this point?
So those are our main cities. We also are opening a space in Los Angeles because we work with the city, and so we'll be working out of Maker City, LA, out there. So we just finalized that last week. So but yeah, so Detroit and Miami and Los Angeles are our main ones, and I'm excited. I work with amazing people, and we happen to be in a couple pretty cool markets. So there's so much creativity down here. But it's interesting because like you'll walk down the street or whatever, and you'll see like 20 CrossFit spaces. I'm like, so I guess everybody down here works out. So it's definitely a different climate down here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's your why Miami? If you haven't been asked this yet, you will.
Okay.
But why did you choose Miami?
Why did we choose Miami? Trying to figure out, how did it start? Oh, yeah. Okay, so I had brought a speaker to Detroit, Brian Bratkeen. So he was the startup founder, brought him there. He was like, dude, you have to come to Miami. I was like, dude, in Miami there's South Beach and there's Dwayne Wade. I was like, there's no startups down there. And so about 3 years ago, I came down and he took me through Miami, and I was like, and I would have never thought about Miami. It would have never crossed my mind. And it was that personal introduction to the city that got me thinking like, okay, Miami is a viable option.
I think Brian was second. He was number 2 episode on this podcast.
Okay. Brian's a good guy, smart guy, knows a lot of stuff. And so he was the one that, that kind of, he made the connection with Venture Cafe and a few other things. But he's a great guy.
Yeah, I agree.
So tell me, how can people get involved with Rebrand Cities? How can they connect with you online, personally, the brand?
All right, that's a great question.
All of the above.
Yep. So our website is rebrand.city. They can email us at hello@rebrand.city. And so if you're a developer or creative or things like that, we're building our team out. And we're always looking to work with great people. If there are businesses that need websites, we would love to be able to work with you. I'm on every platform, and you can just look my name up. So it's Hajj Flemings, HajjFlemings. But I would say Twitter and Instagram are probably the ones where I probably spend the most time interacting with people. I'm in LinkedIn as well too, and Facebook. But I would say Twitter and Instagram is probably where I have my most engagement.
Hajj, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
For more episodes, visit innovationcity.co. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. And if you're in Miami, visit us on Thursday nights. Details are at venturecafemiami.org. And be sure to connect with us on social at We Are Slam and at Venture Cafe MIA. Thanks for listening.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to